Hello, guys, and welcome back. As the regional championships in Manila is drawing near, we continue to explore the current standard format and the metagame of the decks that I think would possibly we could face or I could, in a way, build in our current card pool of our team. So today's deck feature is a version of Rakdos Aggro, which I have been eyeing for a while, and I'm happy to see this build has come to a finish in the first place in the Emperor Standard in Japan. And it was played by Hanuki Yuya, which I think is also one of the uh, best player in that probably in that country. And also we could expect more that Japanese has been quite techy in terms of building their standard decks in particular. And so we'll check the list. We have 29 creatures. Let's align this one as in the grid so we can dissect them one by one. We have 6 instants and 25 lands as well as the 15 card sideboard. So going here, we know that Rakdos has been a face of the metagame with the variants that has somewhat diverted to that of the Golgari build. And I know that also building or have been also trying that deck archetype, but this version would mean that we can still see some of the usual suspects for the Rakdos build. And if you are yet familiar with the metagame, months, maybe a month ago, we have some Inti Senecia of the Sun aggro version, but this one would also go with having the 3-drop Reckless Stormseeker. So this card would mean that it would give your creature +1 +0 and gain haste, and more so if it is going with the Nightbound, it gets +2 +0 against trample and haste. And we'd have a lot here of creatures that can basically benefit whenever that attacks, or also gets you the trouble of uh, by passing the sorcery speed removals. So going first with the 2-drops, we have a lot of choices here. We have 4 copies of Blighted Harvester, which is the usual suspect here. It gets you to generate blood tokens and also get a spot removal on its own, equal to the number of twice the number of the blood tokens you control. We also have a Deep Cavern Bat. So this card would also check up your opponent's hand to get the best non-land card at the moment, depending on the current situation that you have, and also gets you a 1/1 flyer and lifelink that can also have to be getting you ahead of the damage race as early as turn 2. Now for the other 2-drops here were your 2 copies of Inti Senecia of the Sun. So what it does is that whenever you attack, you can discard a card, and discarding it would convert into a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature and having it trample. At the same time, if you ever discard 1 or more cards, you will exile the top card of your library, and then you may play that card until your next end step. So in a way, you can cycle out those unnecessary lands and convert them into additional damage to your creatures. At the same time, replace it with a more suitable card. For example, if you miss your land drop, you can play it from the top card of your library if you get to exile those, and also get to have some spot removals or other needed creatures on the board if depending on that situation. Now for your 3-drops, of course, we have the best 3-drops so far in the standard format with 2 copies of Geeks Yagmoth Praetor that can have to deal damage, and the creatures you control would get you to draw card at the cost of 1 life, and also 4 copies of Preacher of the Schism. So this card would also get you to have a 1/1 white vampire token, or draw you a card and lose 1 life depending on the life situations. But just a quick tip for the starting: if both of your opponents has equal life total, both of these triggers would happen. And also in the support of having your haste is your copies of Reckless Stormseeker, that's 4 copies. In addition, for the 4-drop are your 4 copies of Archfiend of the Dross, which also gets you a 6/6 flyer at the cost of the drawback of these OL counters. So imagine if you have this Stormseeker on turn 3, and then your turn 4 would be an Archfiend of the Dross and have the Stormseeker give it haste. It will just deal 7 damage in the air right away, and also get ahead and maybe in a damage rate, and maybe even finish the game in a quick fashion. In addition, also your support of Shielded Apocalypse, because this card would also get you to punish those card draw effects from your opponent, and also get you to gain life whenever you draw a card. So that's 2 copies. And the last one for the 5-drop of the flyer is your lone copy of Outlaws' Deepest Betrayal. So this would also shine in this deck because of this ability that can have your opponents discard a card, and those opponents who can't would get you to draw a card, and then if they would be ever to discard a land card, it would then be converted to a 1/1 black creature token with flying. And also, if the dice effect would happen to your creature, this would turn back into a land with the Temple of the Dead, which can then be replayed later on by having this activation only if a player has 1 or fewer cards in hand and sorcery speed. In addition, also support the 5-drop are your 2 copies of Volatile Arsonist. This is just a 5 to cast 4 minutes with haste, but this ability that whenever it attacks, it deals 1 damage to each up to 1 target creature, target player, and target planeswalker. And more so, it can deal additional with the Nightbound. It becomes a Dire Strain Anarchist, and this ability is also a menace haste, but it's more power to 5/5, and whenever it attacks, it can deal 2 damage to each up to 1 target creature, target player, and up to 1 target planeswalker. So that's the curve of your deck basically, and also with the support of these cards of spot removals, we have 3 Duel for the Throat, 1 Bitter Triumph, and 2 copies of Countdown. So additional damage effects that can make sure that you can have a clear path and also prevent your opponents from developing their best creatures. So in support of the lands, we have here variants, of course, given that today's non-basic land type support for the black red is very much efficient. In addition, also we can have also Restless Vents as a man land as an additional attacker. Also with Takenuma and Sokensan as your support for channel lands, and of course Cavern of Souls, which can basically name Phyrexian or even a werewolf to make sure that your creatures are not or cannot be countered per se, and have to resolve and also deal damage if given haste. And for the sideboard, you can see a quick preview of these cards. We have, of course, some specific matchup category cards that you can bring in to your second game or for your third game. So starting off with Duress and Exact the Truth, maybe for the matchup against Control or Midrange, or even with that of the Esper of Fiend. Exact the Truth can also deal with Planeswalkers from their hand and also have them sacrifice an enchantment. And Abrade can also deal with unnecessary artifacts such as maybe with the Simic Robots matchup, and can also deal 3 damage to any target creature. And also with the support against Aggro or the Boros matchups are your 2 copies of Itsugu Consumes All and 2 copies of the Vampire's Vengeance, or the version of Sweeping, dealing 2 damage to each non-vampire creature, and also can able to create a blood token. And that for your Temur matchup, we have here 2 copies of Licensers that can exile graveyards, and also have this Liena of the Veil against blue-white, and even for against Dimir decks to have them discard a card and disrupt your hand. And also in addition are additional copies of Outlaws, which are more lean to the mid-game and late-game scenario, wherein you would need to have creatures that very efficient and damage or destroy effect resistant. And do take note that Hiritsugu also can also be used against Temur because it can exile all graveyards and also become an attacker on its own in Vessel of the All-Consuming. And last but not the least, as copy of Blot Out as a solid sacrifice effects against mid-range or even against control creatures, because they can also exile Planeswalkers that control with the greatest mana value among creatures and Planeswalkers. And that we wrap up this video with the mana curve. It's surprisingly low, 2.83 only. We have a lot of 2 drops and 3 drops in this build, and the color distribution is more on black. We have 36 for black and 14 for red, but the producers here are pretty much even with black and red support. Of course, you can see here a lot of mana fix, to a total of 25 lands in the main deck. And lastly are your tokens, your Bat token, Blood token, Spirit token from the Skansan, and the Vampire token from the Preacher of the Schism. So I guess that's pretty much it, guys, for this deck tech of your red aggro that's updated with the pilot of Hanuki Yuya from Emperor of Standard in Japan. I'm thinking of having this planned deck for the upcoming LCQ this weekend, but I don't really think if we can complete it on time, but basically I will still have this one as a standby deck. And if ever you've seen this one or faced this one in your typical or dailies in MTG or MTG Arena, just let me know in the comments below what would you think of this deck build, if the Stormseeker would really fit in this kind of deck, or also we can have more of a variance or change more of the setup and go with a typical Rakdos setup for the aggro deck. So thank you for watching on this featured video for Standard. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and see you guys on the next upload.